Before we get into today's topic, I'd just like to say that this video is proudly sponsored by FS Academy, which produced the very best tutorials for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. And indeed, whether you are a professional pilot or just starting out, there's definitely a training package for you. I've done many of them now, and I really do like how they are from real-world pilots and instructors, which give you a very bespoke and very natural way of learning. All the links will be in the description below. I highly recommend that you check them out, and it's why they are sponsoring this video today. It's amazing how time flies. I've had the DOF Reality H2 for over 6 months already. So in this video, I'm going to give you my sort of long-term review, all the good things, all the bad things, and hopefully by the end of this video, if you haven't bought one yet, it will give you an informed decision, because I appreciate something like this is quite an investment. Now, just to say that DOF Reality did send this out for free, but of course, as always, my opinions are my own. And let's start with the assembly process. It did take quite a while for me to put it all together. I don't think the instructions are that great. They do have a YouTube video, but often the assembly instructions, as you can see here, they're quite far away. But you know, 6 months later, it's still standing proud, so I must have done it right. But I do think that DOF Reality should improve their assembly instructions with a booklet with clear diagrams of where things go. That would make things a bit easier. However, overall, considering how daunting I was when I first, opened the box and saw all of the bolts and screws and frames and brackets, it was quite an enjoyable experience, funny enough, which is something I never thought I'd say, not being much of a DIY guy. So my first impressions, well, I will link that in the description below, and they were absolutely game-changing for me. I'm sorry to use that word, guys, but it was that much of a bigger deal. I would compare this to the first time I used VR. Having the translation of the movements, what I was seeing in the VR headset, just was absolutely a mind-blowing experience. And once you have that feeling of flight together with the feeling of being in the cockpit as well, it totally transforms your flight simming hobby. And quite honestly, you'll never be the same again. You'll never want to not use motion in your flight simming rig. It's just incredible. So basically, this H2 is very, very cheap for what it offers. In fact, I do applaud DOF Reality for providing a motion rig that is more accessible. It's still expensive, but if you consider just probably 4 or 5 years ago, something like this would cost you £10,000. Think of this as buying a new GPU, like a high-end RTX 4090. It's around the same sort of ballpark, and in terms of the reward factor, it is absolutely worth every penny, folks. Honestly, I would not say that if I didn't mean it. Every video you've seen since my initial first impressions of the DOF Reality H2, as you know from long-term viewers of the channel, thank you for being here by the way, you will notice I use the DOF Reality H2 every single time I fly. And the odd time that I don't use it, say I've got a new computer because I'm borrowing an RTX 4070 based system at the moment, I haven't got that connected to the H2. If I fly it using just a normal office chair, it feels so strange, so sterile, and I just really struggle with it now. Just the motion will always be part of my hobby now. It's that much of a bigger deal. So the DOF Reality H2 isn't perfect, of course, and I think the main issue that people will probably notice is the smoothness of the gearbox. Now, I would recommend the SFU upgrade, which makes it very powerful. Being slingshot off a carrier is something that will always wow you. It's quite an experience, folks. However, I think for more sedate general aviation flying, it's important to get the right settings for your Sim Racing Studio app, which I'll talk about in a moment. Otherwise, you may experience a little bit of stepping. That is just filling the gearbox. It's not completely 100% smooth, but I wouldn't expect it to be for around sort of £2,000. If you want that super smooth sort of hydraulic feeling of movement, then I would imagine you'd have to go to at least twice the amount in terms of the price to get that feeling. So I don't find that a problem personally, but it is something that is noticeable when doing very small movements. I have mentioned this actually in my review video and my first impressions video, but again, I think that's probably the most negative aspect of this motion rig. And I believe it probably is the same whether you buy an H2, H3 or H6. Now, talking of the degrees of movement, this device actually only has pitch and roll. However, thanks to the amazing sort of software that is used, the Sim Racing Studio app, it is fantastic, and it can actually simulate your surge, even feeling like you're being bounced around, or the braking forces, the bumps, the haptic sort of engine vibrations, as well as feeling the missiles leaving the aircraft, or using your guns in, say, a warbird. It is such a engaging and immersive experience. And I think one of the major strengths of the DOF Reality H2 is in the software. The Sim Racing Studio app means that you can change every single setting to your liking. The way the rig behaves in terms of the power, the roll rate, the pitch, the way it kind of gives you those different forces, it is fantastic. And you can even change it per aircraft as well. So I'd like to just finish off by saying that when DOF Reality reached out to me to check one of these out, I nearly said no, because I hate faff. I hate anything to do with, DIY, and if it was going to cause me more bother and create more complications for me to get up flying, then it just wasn't going to work for me. But I have to say, folks, the DOF Reality H2 has been more reliable than the sim itself. It works every single time. I just switch one button on and the USB, load up the software, and it works every single time. It's amazing. I'm so impressed with the reliability. And as you can imagine, being a YouTuber and also flying for myself, it's been used a lot. I would say it's easily had well over 1,000 hours use, if not more now. And that is in all the major flight sims. I think the only last thing to say is that even taking the motion rig out of the equation, just having all of my peripherals and switches, controllers in one place and getting into the cockpit feels like getting into a real aircraft. I know it sounds a bit corny, but it feels like an event every time, rather than just having to readjust my desk from a work-based environment to a simming-based environment. So overall, I have to give this a high recommendation for anybody seriously thinking of experiencing a motion rig. I do think the DOF Reality H2 is a great introduction into this exciting new world. It makes the flight simulation feel totally alive and completely immersive. Together with VR, I can't actually quite believe that this experience is available at home, and I absolutely love it. And you will continue seeing every single VR flight sim guy video using the DOF Reality H2, whether you see it on the screen in terms of the camera or not. Every time I'm in VR, I will be in this motion rig. I hope in some way that's helped your decision, or even reaffirmed your purchase, because I know many of you have now got the DOF Reality H2 because of me. So I would say sorry, but I know how much you're loving it because I've had lots of messages, of thanks. So that's fantastic. And just one more thing before I go, I would highly recommend that if you are going to be adding controllers to your motion rig, and obviously you will be, check out QR for rigs. They provide quick release plates for a manner of different flight controls. I do have a review on the channel. I'll also link that in the description below. And when I say quick release, I truly mean it. You can change from a yoke to a joystick within a matter of seconds. It's a fantastic and very clever design, so I'd highly recommend anybody thinking of a motion rig or some sort of a standalone sim pit to check them out. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate all your support on the channel, and I'll see you again very, very soon. Bye bye for now.